No one ever tells you what it feels like to finally reach the mountaintop and realize that everything that you've been working for your entire life was completely meaningless. I became a millionaire by 30 and it nearly destroyed me. Everybody talks about success, but they never talk about the cost, especially when you're a high achiever. So in this video, I'm breaking down 7 lessons I wish someone had told me before I made my first million. And if you've been chasing success your entire life, these lessons might just save you from building the wrong life like I did. So let's start with lesson number 1. Success is a false summit. When you're a highly capable person, you can literally accomplish almost anything as long as you commit to it, which ironically makes it even easier for you to choose the wrong path and be pretty successful at it. See, the problem is most of us were never taught to define success for ourselves. We were just told to chase salaries and job titles and respectable jobs, like a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. But what if that's not the right path for you? See, for me, early on in life, what started off as me just trying to escape from poverty turned into me building a life that looked successful on paper, but felt like a prison I couldn't get myself out of. When I was younger, I bought into the idea of getting a corporate job, having the house and the car and the family, you know, the whole dream lifestyle that we were all sold on when we were kids. My mom was a single parent and money was always tight, so I knew that I needed to be able to contribute to the household as quickly as possible. No one in my family had ever made 6 figures before, and me, I had big dreams. Like, I wanted to be the one that was going to break that cycle. And so my obsession for escaping and bringing us out of poverty led me to seeing corporate America as the perfect ticket to getting to that place. I had always had a passion for technology. Like, when I got my first computer, I would break it, take it apart, put it back together, and I really loved building things. And so I knew technology was the path that I wanted to take. But there was still one problem. At the time, I was only 16 and I definitely couldn't afford to go to college. So I pretty much busted my ass through high school and I ended up graduating 2 years early. So that gave me the freedom to be able to work a full-time job, and I ended up getting a housekeeping position at the Holiday Inn Express job. But I didn't have a car at the time, so I would literally wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, ride the bus for 3.5 hours to get to work, then work an 8 to 9 hour shift, and then ride the bus 3.5 hours back home and finally get there at around 9 or 10 p.m. and wake up the next day and do it all over again. And I did this for 3 years. But during those rides, I would literally be reading Microsoft certification books and teaching myself all the skills and knowledge I needed to learn every single day. So the bus pretty much became my classroom, and that was all I did with the free time that I had, which wasn't much. Now, eventually I landed my first corporate job as a help desk analyst. And once I got in, I became obsessed with climbing the corporate ladder. All I did was study, pick up new skills, and then improve so that I could move up in the ranks, get a better job title, and make more money. My goals just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where I went from being a help desk analyst and then eventually an IT architect. And when I finally topped out and there was no higher to go, I decided that it was best for me to go out on my own, and I built my own IT consulting firm using the skills and the knowledge that I had learned from prior businesses, using sales and marketing, and all of the technical skills that I had built up so far. And I eventually started building systems and automations for some of the top Fortune 500 companies across America you probably know and love today. So by all standards of success, like, I was winning, right? But somewhere along the way, I completely lost sight of what I was doing all of this for and why I even started. And it wouldn't be until years later that I finally realized how far I had drifted away from myself. I had literally everything I thought I wanted, but no amount of money could distract me from how miserable I actually was. And that's when everything really started unraveling for me. Yes, I had the title, yes, I had the money, and I had the accolades, right? But behind the scenes, my life was literally in shambles. I was working like 12 to sometimes 15-hour days. I was literally working off of 4 different laptops on my desk. And I was barely keeping my friendships and my relationship afloat the entire time. And what I kept telling myself was that this was all in search of success. I was literally just living for the weekends, but even on the weekends, I'd be too tired to actually go out and do anything. I would sometimes go on vacations, but I was so burnt out that like I couldn't fully enjoy them. And in the back of my mind, I always would be thinking like, okay, in 2 days I have to go right back to this life that honestly I hate and I'm miserable in. So Vacations didn't help, they just made me feel worse about my life. And if you're working a 9 to 5 job right now, you probably know exactly what that feels like. And that's why this lesson matters so much. Because if you're a high achiever, you can be so busy striving for success that you never stop to finally ask yourself, like, is this truly what I want? Am I building the life that I really want? Or was I sold an idea of something that I'm not even going to like once I get there? If it doesn't feed your soul, if there's no purpose behind the work that you're doing, and it doesn't support the lifestyle you actually want to be living, then it's not success, it's a trap. Lesson number 2, comfort is the new captivity. You want to know one of the main reasons why I stayed in a situation I was so miserable in? I was comfortable. I wasn't struggling, the bills were paid, I could buy whatever I wanted to, I could go wherever I wanted to go, and live however I wanted to live. In theory, I definitely wasn't checking price tags when I was shopping because I didn't have to. I literally had 2 apartments, and that's the level that I was at. So on the outside, it looked like freedom, but on the inside, I was stuck because I had accumulated so much and built so much around my life that I didn't see a way out. And that comfort truly became like a metaphorical cage for me, because deep down inside, I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but I was scared. Like, I was scared that if I made a change, if I walked away from all of that security, financially speaking, then I wouldn't be able to replicate it elsewhere. So I stayed. No matter how I felt, no matter how drained I was, no matter how sad and miserable I was, no matter how much it was destroying my relationships because I was a terrible person to be around, I was always in a bad mood. I ignored all of those signs, the emotions I was feeling, I ignored everything. My soul was literally screaming that I wasn't supposed to be doing this shit, but I kept doing it anyways because I was comfortable up until I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I hit a point where it was like rock bottom for me. I had gotten so depressed and something broke inside of me. Eventually, I ended up making a lot of choices that, I in some ways regret, but not because I was being reckless, but just because I let the pressure build up so much that I finally exploded and I hit rock bottom. And that's the part that no one talks about, because most people won't change anything until they reach that point, that final breaking point. And that's what happened to me. And if you ignore your feelings and you ignore what's happening, then eventually you're going to get there. It's inevitable. I just didn't listen to it soon enough. So for me, the lesson here is really comfort can be kind of this seductive thing, and it keeps us complacent. It feels good in the moment, but it will trap you in a life that slowly kills you. If your soul is screaming at you, telling you that it's time for a change, don't wait until you reach a breaking point. Don't keep ignoring the signs and the things that you know you need to do. Change right now while you still have the option to, before you hit the point of rock bottom and your entire life falls apart because you didn't make the change when you knew you needed to. Lesson number 3, the system wasn't built for people like us. Even though I chose the path that I was on, I never really felt like I fit into it. I've always felt like the black sheep, not just in my family, but everywhere I went, whether it was at school, my own family, whatever job I was working at the time, but especially in corporate America. No matter where I was, I just never fit into like the traditional boxes that people tried to place me in. Like, I would literally stand out the second I walked into any room I was in, not because I was loud or something, but because I just didn't look like everyone else. And I get it, I obviously don't look like everyone else, and that's okay. I'm a masculine presenting woman in the tech field. So because I'm wearing like a button down and I'm gonna be, I'm gonna put on some slacks, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna do my thing, I'm gonna be dressed to the nines, cool, but like I don't look like everybody else, and I get that, I get it. But people stare, like all heads turn when you walk in the room. And when that happens, everywhere you go, you just start to get used to it, but you don't forget about it. You still, it's not something that isn't obvious to you that it happens all the time. So what did I do? I tried to be a chameleon. I tried to put myself in a box. I tried to dumb myself down. I tried to fit in. I tried to be normal. I tried to wear a mask to look and sound just like everyone else around me. And it worked. I figured out how to read the room. I figured out how to blend in. And I figured out how to be whoever I needed to be in any given moment. Because in corporate America, it's not about your talent. It's not about how good you are at your job. It's literally just a popularity contest. You can take 2 people who are just as qualified for a job. Whoever is liked more by their peers is going to get it. That's just the way it works. So when people don't like you, you don't get paid. You start missing out on money. So instead of being my genuine, authentic self, I played the game. I smiled when I didn't want to. I was pleasant. I was a people pleaser. I did all the things. I figured out how to navigate corporate politics. But the entire time, I just felt like I was never going to be accepted as myself. And being in that environment made it very clear that I wouldn't. It just wasn't going to be the case. And I slowly started to realize like this system is just not built for people like me. It wasn't built for people who look and think differently. It wasn't built for people who want autonomy for themselves, who are seeking purpose and independence, who want to build something that actually means something to the world. Because corporate life has a ceiling, both when it comes to income and when it comes to growth. And no matter how far you climb up, you're still building someone else's vision instead of your own. So yeah, I didn't fit in, and I spent years trying to force myself to. But what I finally realized was if you don't fit into the stereotype of the person they want you to be, they're always going to find a way to make you feel like you don't belong there, because you don't. But just because the system wasn't built for people like us, it doesn't mean that you can't gain anything from it. Because what I realized was all the time that I spent in those rooms, all the pressure, all the judgment that I had to face, all of the struggles that I had to endure throughout that process is really what built me. It's what gave me the confidence to eventually walk away, but it was also the thing that made me capable of being someone who could actually make 7 figures in a business. Because you can spend your entire life trying to be good enough to be in the room, or you can build your own and live in the truth that you've always been good enough the entire time, and you don't have to prove shit to anybody. So later on in this video, I'm gonna share with you what I actually built. But let's get into lesson number 4. Your success should not be determined by a title or a salary. In the name of transparency, I want to be real with you. One of the hardest things to let go of for me wasn't actually the money. It was the title. It was the way people looked at me when I said I was an IT architect. The respect that you get when you tell people like, oh, I own my own consulting business. You just get a certain level of respect and approval from your peers, from society, and people just treated me like I had my shit together just because of those labels. And I held on to that for way too long. And not because I actually loved what I was doing, but more so because I was scared of who I would be if I didn't have that identity. I think that was truly what held me back, was like my own ego, my own attachment. I knew, first of all, that my friends and family would think I lost my mind because, you know, like I didn't want them to see me as a failure for walking away from something that looked so stable and so successful on paper. And honestly, that fear kept me from moving forward for years, even though I knew I needed to make a change. Because it's really not just like the paycheck and the finances that keep people stuck, right? It's the approval and the ego boost that you get from knowing you're someone that society accepts. And I think that on some level, all of us are really just seeking acceptance. But once I finally hit my breaking point, I just let it all go. I had to. I sold my car. I got rid of almost everything that I own, and I went on a journey. Spent months drifting around the country, just like taking one huge road trip that was extended for probably 4 months. And I had no job. I had no plan. I was just trying to figure out who the hell I was and really get in tune with myself. And what I found was that people still liked me, not because of my resume or because of how much money I had, but they liked me because of my energy and who I am as an individual. What I realized was this version of you is so miserable, so sad, so unhappy. Why are you trying so hard to protect it? Why are you trying so hard to protect a life that you've outgrown? And this was just really the thing that allowed me to free myself and truly move forward. So when I stripped off the titles and the money and everything else that I had kind of built up around me to make me feel like I was something of importance, I realized that none of that ever mattered in the first place. And it was the thing that really set me free. And it led me on the path of actually trying to find what was gonna bring me more joy, how I was gonna find purpose in my life, how I was going to design my life differently than the way I had been living it for the past decade. So my lesson to you is find who you are underneath the surface level accolades and the titles and the money and anything else you have placed around you from an egoic perspective. Find find yourself underneath all of that, because the moment you finally detach from it is the moment you're free to find the path that you really should be walking down. Lesson number 5. You can't choose a better life for yourself if you don't even know that one exists. One of the reasons it was so hard for me to find the right path was because I didn't even know that there was an alternative to what I was doing. Like, I tried every single avenue that most people think of. Real estate, e-com, neither one of those were for me. I also tried music production, but it just didn't feel right. And every other business model I saw just felt either too confined or restrictive for me, or it just didn't align with my values and who I am as a person. And it definitely didn't match the lifestyle that I wanted as well. So I had to first start by defining what type of lifestyle I actually wanted to live. And for me, that was pretty simple. I wanted to work on something that I was passionate about. I wanted it to be a business that I could run from anywhere without any limitations on my location. And I definitely wanted to do something different that didn't completely burn me out. When you think about all the traditional business models, I'm not going to do drop shipping. I'm not going to become a trader. So like, what other options do I have? And at the time, I just genuinely couldn't think of anything else. So I felt really stuck because I had almost exhausted all of my resources trying to find the right thing that would fit me, but nothing really did. And that was until I came across a guy named Dan Coe. And at the time, I had literally never seen it, never heard of him before, but he talked about how he had made over $4 million just purely using his own intellectual property, basically sharing his ideas and methods of creation with the world. And I'm not saying that I followed his blueprint, because I really didn't. But that idea in and of itself changed everything for me. So Dan Coe, if you ever see this, which I doubt you will, thanks, brother. But yeah, that really changed everything for me, because he built his business around his ideas, his thoughts, his unique perspectives on the world. He was using his own intellectual property to build something lean and digital that he could then build into a profitable machine and use it as a business. And it was something that aligned with him because it was his ideas, right? And so I never really saw myself as like a YouTuber, the traditional sense, but when I saw his content, I was like, wait, you can do that? I just realized maybe I just need to design one for myself. And from that moment on, I started looking into like my own skills, my knowledge. How do I take everything that I've learned and built and all the skills that I've acquired and turn that into a business? And that was when I really found the right fit for myself, by not like choosing from options that were already out there, but more so picking from things that I liked from different business models and creating my own systems, my own designs, my own methodologies and thoughts and frameworks, and applying that to creating a business that I now have today. The lesson here is, if you can't see the right path right now, then it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that maybe you need to build and design it for yourself, because it's not already out there. It's not something that you're going to find on a billboard. It's something that you need to design for yourself and custom fit for you. And yeah, of course, it takes courage, it takes strength, right? It takes skill, but it also gives you full control over your time, over your income, over your energy, your lifestyle. So if you've tried everything before and nothing really fits, then stop looking at all the different paths that other people have built and start creating your own. Because I promise you, once you see that there's a way out and you realize that it's better than what you're doing now, you're not going to be able to let it go. You're not going to be able to forget it. Lesson number 6, job security is an illusion. I feel like our generation kind of got handed a lie. We were all raised by parents and grandparents who worked at the same place for like 30 to 40 years. They retired, they got a pension. They may have spent their entire life just working one single job, which is crazy. But that world doesn't exist anymore. These jobs don't give a fuck about us. They will replace us in a heartbeat. And don't even get me started on AI, which is already taking over so many jobs. It's insane. Job security is a myth, but people are still walking around acting like they have security just because they have a 9-to-5 job. And security and predictability are not the same thing. Maybe you have a predictable paycheck, but that doesn't make you secure. And I've seen firsthand how destructive 9-to-5 jobs can be. Even though you get a steady paycheck and whatever else, you know, when you lose that job, it can get pretty bad. And I've seen firsthand. So when I was consulting for corporate companies, I get brought on a contract. The project would start, I would execute, I would deliver, and I would move on to the next contract. But while I was there, I'd be working side by side on different teams. And so I would be integrated into their culture. I would be working with their teams to execute on things because we would kind of help each other. And people who had been with companies for like 5, 10, 15, even 20 years were getting laid off. One of the companies that I had consulted for was Silicon Valley Bank. And if you don't know, or if you didn't hear about it, there was a major bank run that happened a few years ago, and Silicon Valley Bank literally collapsed, and it was like economic chaos. It was one of the biggest bank collapses in like recent history. The people that worked there lost everything. I mean, these people had thousands and thousands and thousands of shares in Silicon Valley Bank or in SVB, and they lost it all. This was everything they had ever worked for, and they lost their jobs. They got fired. And I also had peers that were working at Facebook, that were working at Google, that were working at all these other tech firms, and thousands upon thousands of people were getting laid off. And this was very recent. Like, this is not something new, and it's still continuing to happen. And when people lose their jobs, some of them have been trying to find another job for over a year and still can't find one. So it's like, job security cannot be the thing that you bet everything on, because the odds are not in your favor anymore. They're just not, because those people dedicated their entire lives to working at these companies, and the second that they decided it wasn't in the budget for them or it wasn't in their favor, gone, fired, like it was nothing to them. So if you think that your job is secure in 2025, I hate to say this, but like, no matter what company you're working for, they have no obligation to you. As soon as they find a faster, better, or cheaper way to get your job done through AI or in any other form, then they don't need you around anymore. And I don't say that to scare you. I'm saying it because I've seen what happens to people when they don't take this seriously. And I've watched people that I care about deeply get blindsided by this type of stuff, and they have no recourse. So the lesson here is that honestly, your job is not security. Your title is not security. Your skill set is the security. Your ability to adapt, your ability to solve problems, your ability to generate income for yourself autonomously without needing a 9-to-5 job. That is security. So if you've been relying on your job like it's a safety net for you, and you think that they're never going to let you go or you're never going to lose it, now is the time to be rethinking those things, because the only person you can actually count on is yourself. And if you don't have a backup plan, then it's time to start creating one. Lesson number 7, no one can take your skills or your intellectual property from you. Because once you realize that a paycheck isn't promised, the title doesn't actually define you, and that job security is an illusion, you start to understand that the only real power and control you have is what's already inside of you, right? Your skills, your perspectives, your knowledge, your lived experiences, the things that you've learned and mastered and built. No one can take that away from you. And that's exactly what I use to build something better for myself. Now, I didn't want to become an influencer, right? I'm not trying to go viral every week. I just show up, share what I know, and then speak from my own experiences. I use all the skills that I learned in corporate America, and I package that into something that I can now share with other people, and it works for me. And now I actually make money working with clients I genuinely enjoy being around, and I don't have to pretend to be someone that I'm not. I can be 100% authentic. I can show up on camera. I can be myself and make money just by being me. I built a business that actually fits the lifestyle I wanted to be living. And instead of giving all of that away to a company who probably doesn't even appreciate you, you can use it to build something of your own. That's exactly what I did, and it's what I help other people do. Package up their skills, their knowledge, and their information to design a business that allows them to use those skills to help other people. If you're still watching right now, you're definitely a real one. Comment down below, I'm still here, so I know you actually made it this far in the video. So if this resonates with you on a deeper level, and you feel like it's time for you to make a change in your life, if you're ready to transition into something that actually fits who you are and gives you real security without having to sacrifice your freedom or your financial stability, then I highly suggest subscribing to this channel, because that is exactly what I do. All right, see you in the next video.